We have 6 panelists who I would like to invite. Bacigalupo, Charles Bateman, Patrick Clasen, Boris Levin, Daniel Lewis, and Anthony Magee. As you can see, they came from different places in the country, from different time zones. They have very different career paths, and that's how we ask them to represent, graduates and give advice to current students. And what is definitely common for all of them, they are very successful. So I would like to invite you guys to the stage. And I have asked a very enthusiastic Anthony Magee to lead the discussion. You will probably find out that he also brought his book here. The only question I have about the bucket, was it zinc coated or not? So I think I will be ready. Thank you.
No. All right. How's everybody? How's everybody? And the rest of you? Good. Well, let's give it up for 125 years of I'm going to serve as your host / moderator / I'm sitting right here. So I would like to just kind of be mobile so that I could, at least facilitate the conversation today. It's going to be loose. So everybody just roll your shoulders back like this. It's going to be loose today. We have illustrious professionals here, all graduates from Lehigh University. And before we get into our discussion on the panel and the question and answer, I would like to just ask a favor of you. Everybody pick a number between 1 and 10. Don't tell me what it is, just pick a number between 1 and 10. If you got it, say I got it. All right, I want you to multiply that number by 9. If you got it, say I got it. You should have a 2-digit number, yes? I want you to go ahead and add those numbers together. Okay? You got to say I got it. All right. Now what I want you to do is take away 5. Take away 5 from the answer that you had. If you got it, say I got it. All right. There's a number you have. I want you to correlate that number to an ordered letter in the alphabet, the American alphabet, English alphabet. We don't have an American alphabet, it's English. A to Z, okay? Whatever number you have, just put that number above the letter that's in the order of the alphabet. If you got it, say I got it. I want you to think of the first country that comes to mind that starts with that letter. If you got it, say I got it. All right. Now, I want you to take the second letter of that country. And I want you to think of the first animal that comes to mind. If you got it, say I got it. I want you to think of that animal's texture. I want you to think of that animal's color. And if you got it, you might have come up with a rough-skinned gray elephant in Denmark. How many of y'all come up with a rough-skinned gray elephant in Denmark? Oh, look at that. Look at that. Now, I know y'all from Lehigh and everything like that, but not everybody know everybody like that. So, just if you got that, show your hands again one time. Yeah, all right, look at that. That's about 98% of the room. Now, what does this demonstrate, Lehigh? It demonstrates that with a good system in place, it doesn't matter where you come from in this entire world. But if you find a good system and you find yourself going through that system, not going a single person, but you go through that system, you'll find out on the other side that whoever made it would end up with a similar result. Lehigh University changed my life indefinitely. It is the actual turning point in my life. It was the tipping point, but it was the turning point. I'm so happy it wasn't a breaking point. Well, today, we want to share with you some of the systems, the process of the system that allowed us to become professionals in our own right, and also just some really happy Lehigh graduates. Okay? So we're going to allow our illustrious guests to just briefly go through and tell us about themselves, and then we're going to ask a couple questions to get the conversation going. But I want to encourage the young people, meaning those that are undergraduates, especially graduate students as well, to ask all you can. I want to give it to you and just facilitate so that you get the most out of this hour, okay? This is an hour of power from your Lehigh professionals here. So, if it's all the same to you, realize that systems are very important. Try to get your questions answered so you can have a powerful system, because 98% of all things fail without a system in place. And that's how I got through Lehigh. I had a system. I got here and it was incredible, and I made it, and I just stand on the mountain and I just tell it to everybody, look, make sure you got a good system in place. Yes. So first off, if you go, you start with the lady. Yes, we'll go all the way down. Just briefly tell us your name, your occupation, just something quick about what makes you special, and we'll go all the way down. Yes.
My advisor is laughing at you for the special comment.
Oh, okay. Who's your advisor?
Professor Pearson.
Oh, Pearson. All right, big round of applause for Pearson right there. Oh, sorry. Miss Lauren.
My name is Lauren Bacigalupo. I graduated in 2013 with my PhD, so it hasn't been that long. I recognize most of you in the crowd, actually. I'm now a process and a materials characterization engineer at Raytheon in Andover, Massachusetts, and I live in Boston. I will say I am not doing anything of what I did here directly, but I think a lot of people appreciate the fundamentals that I learned here and the personality, which emanates from Notice and beyond. So I think that's it for now.
Wonderful, that was great. Great, yes, Charles.
Yeah, Charlie Bateman. I graduated with my PhD in 1990, working on microscopy of zirconia with Mike Notice and the rest of the usual suspects. Currently, I am an R&D manager at St. Gobain in Northborough, Massachusetts, and lead a team of about 25 involved in different aspects of materials development, characterization, and testing.
Outstanding. Patrick, yes.
My name is Patrick Clasen. I graduated undergrad in 2004 and then grad school in 2007 under Professor Kiley. And I started a company when I was here as an undergraduate student, and partway through grad school I ended up taking that company and just focusing on that with a couple friends that I made during school. And we manufacture equipment. We started manufacturing equipment for saltwater reef aquariums. We made brushless DC pumps that make currents in your aquarium like you have currents in the ocean. We ended up making LED lights later, and so those LED lights grow coral in your aquarium. And now we have a company with over 70 employees, a location in Ames, Iowa, and we're due about $20 million a year in revenue. A lot of what Lehigh taught me, I don't use directly, specifically in what I do at work. I'm director of finance, which somebody had to do it because we were all engineers.
Hey, for sure you're right.
Yeah. But, it's been a wonderful thing for me because all the things that were taught to me by the engineering department, the way to think, and just a general understanding of how the world works in terms of the physics and mechanics and everything, have facilitated much of what we've been able to accomplish from my perspective on the business and engineering and design side.
Outstanding. My main man, Boris. What's up, Boris? How you feeling, man? That's my schoolmate, you guys. Big round of applause, big Boris.
Good. I graduated with a PhD in '98, art and modern student, and I got an MBA at Lehigh in '96. And I learned at Lehigh as much about life as I learned about metallurgy from a lot of faculty and a lot of graduate students, so I really learned a ton. I'm currently CEO of a Mach Corporation, and it's a 60-year-old manufacturing company, global manufacturing business that makes high-precision filters for mission-critical application. We have filtration and fluid control devices that range from implantable devices that get implanted in a human eye to products that have been on a rover at Mars and large petrochemical applications as well. I'm very grateful to graduate from Lehigh.
That's right, man. Thank the Lord. Yes. Go ahead, Daniel.
My name is Dan Lewis. I'm a faculty member at Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute. I graduated with my PhD, my bachelor's in '95, my PhD in 2001. I was also Mike Notice's student, and I'd say that I produce people at this point in my career, trying to give students an education in material science and engineering, and I think in Mike's talk, he hit it sort of square on the head of the nail for me, which is, I wrestle daily with the, are we trying to do research? Are we trying to teach? I mean, what's the middle of the road? And sort of that's I remember very fondly all of my experiences here with all the faculty members, and I remember whether or not I was a good student in different situations compared to how I expect my students to behave. And so I'm empathetic at times, but also I think, well, I know better because I went through this just the way you're going through it. And so, my experience here sort of shapes the way that I try and craft those people. So.
That's true, yeah. I can still see you roaming the halls back in the day. That's what's up. I'm Tony Magee, and I came in 94, and I'm grateful to Lehigh because they gave me the opportunity to do that from Los Angeles, went to Cal State Northridge. And y'all remember the Northridge earthquake? Anybody? Well, that was my end to Lehigh as an undergraduate, and then I ended up going to graduate school here. Once I graduated in 96, I might not have graduated magna cum laude, probably not even summa cum laude. But I'm so happy I graduated. Thank you, Lottie. Thank you, Lottie. I graduated Lehigh University. When I graduated, I went back to Los Angeles, California to build space shuttle engines for NASA at Rocketdyne. How many of y'all heard of Rocketdyne? Yeah, that was talked about last night. Mr. Terry did a really outstanding job with his talk on space and whatnot. And for about 18, 19 years, I did that for NASA as the forensic metallurgist and fracture and failure analysis on turbo machinery hardware. So that was what I did with my Lehigh degree, so I didn't let it go to waste. It was a 100% success story, and I'm real happy about that. But besides that, I had to change careers only because I was tapped on the shoulder by a billionaire who said, how would you like to apply your skills at what I'm doing? And so he gave me 4 billion reasons why I should go ahead and engineer money. So now for the Great Expectations organization, it's a portfolio organization, I now serve as their chief business strategist. So real happy about that, but all that I am and all I ever hope to be, I was at Lehigh University. So, all right, big round of applause for our First question. Okay, I really believe that you must have skills to pay your bills. Yes? Skills to pay your bills. What skills do you find in your life or business, because this is about success, so they go together. What necessary skills do you feel that you might have gained while you were here, or that you may need in your profession? Anyone?
I think two things come to mind to me. One is the constant sense of being relentless and achieving your goals. Whatever you are out to do, whether it's finding that next solution to fix the engineering problem, or why is this thing breaking, or how do I have to grow my business? Just being relentless in that, and using the creativity that you have innately in your mind, and the tools that you've been given through your education. And those two things, when put together, can create some pretty excellent results.
Anybody else?
So, I do this thing with my students where I ask them to tell me Little Red Riding Hood in 4 sentences. And students, what they usually do when they respond to that is they pause, and then they start talking. And that's actually the learning moment. I think the skill that you need to have is you have to be able to craft a narrative for whatever it is that you're trying to do. And so, in communication, knowing what you want to convey and then sort of convey it succinctly makes people, but gives people the chance to pay attention to you. And so I think, communication, but in a very sort of specific form.
Excellent. Skills, anyone else? Boris?
I learned here not to take myself too seriously, given the fact that we had a fun-loving group. We all made fun of each other, and I think it's a really important skill not to take yourself too seriously. And second, I learned overcoming my fears a little bit too. I'm not a native English speaker. I came from Russia, didn't speak very good English, and by faculty and advisors and students almost forcing me to present and talk and articulate something taught me how to overcome that fear, because it's really terrifying not to know the English very well and stand and present, and I think it's a great skill.
Yeah, they say fear is false events or evidence appearing real, but the antidote is faith, finding answers in the heart. I watched you do it. Good job, Boris. Good job. Anyone else, real quick? Skills. What skills? Communication, anything. What do you think?
And maybe just to follow on with that, being unafraid to fail and then accept criticism.
Yes.
think is really important, because if you expect to succeed all the time, I think you're going to be sad.
That's a really good point, because students, there's no such thing as failure. It's only feedback. It's about a mindset. Yes, anyone else?
For me, I'd say
Yes, John.
big thing, stay curious. Always be looking to learn, to grow, to change, improve yourself, look at different things, different areas. That's huge.
Okay. Lauren, you have anything to say?
Kind of do.
Kind of? Huh?
I always do. But
No, what you do? No, don't hold back. You trying to travel to Massachusetts? Where'd you come from?
Boston.
Boston, yeah. Well, you long way, girlfriend. Go ahead and speak.
No, building off of our department's open door policy, I think never being afraid to ask questions is a big thing. I'm a materials person amongst many electrical engineers and we have a little bit of a communication breakdown when it comes to the engineering backgrounds that we both have, and I think me just going up and asking the questions and us being able to talk about what we find relevant or what issues we find has been very helpful. I think a lot of people have a lot to say if you just ask them.
That's true. Everybody say ASK. You have to ASK to GET. You have to ask to get. I see Arlen Bisco right there. Big round of applause for Arlen right there, everybody. Well, I would ask him every chance I got, yes, for help. Help me, We didn't get here by pulling up our own bootstraps. We got here because someone helped us, and that's why we're having this discussion. It's about career success. I'd like to take a question from the audience. Anyone? Not everybody just jump at me at the same time. One of the students, what would you like to know from the panel? She's like, yikes. Okay, yes.
Tell me something that surprised you when you left Lehigh and joined the workforce.
That's a great question.
Not everybody has the same standards for metallographic preparation.
That's great.
It's true.
That's great. Anyone else? Let's chew these answers up. Quick. Give me something.
So for me, it was the diversity of people you get to interact with. So spending a lot of time here, my world was centered on microscopy and ceramics and stuff. And then you get to a job and you're working with chemists, you're working with chemical engineers, you have to interact with finance people, physicists, statisticians, whatever. The world is a lot broader than my world when it was here.
That's true. I found how dependent the other engineering, engineers and engineering groups are on us. I didn't find it the other way around. I felt like we were a consulting firm, whatever your company might have been, that the material engineers were relied upon. My boss, when he spoke, everyone listened. Just like Dr. Notes, everybody listened. I listen to you, Dr. Notes, for real. But I found how important we were. That's one thing that I found in NASA. They really listened to those metallurgists because all of it started with matter. So, anyone else want to add? Okay. Another question. I'm trying to share here. Let's go. Yes, there we go. Tell us your name.
My name's Allie.
Hi, Allie. Ask your question.
I recently went to the career fair and I would talk to some companies and tell them on that side, and they would say, oh, well, we want a mechanical engineer or a chemical engineer. So how would you react to if you're going to nuclear or something? And they would say, oh, well, I don't want a materials engineer, I want a mechanical engineer, chemical engineer.
What was the question?
Yeah, so the question was, she just attended the career fair and presented herself as a materials engineer, and the recruiter's response was, well, we're not interested in that, we're looking for a mechanical engineer, and so she's asking for advice on how would we react to that, or what can we do to prepare her better for that?
Well, maybe I have two reactions here. One is you may not want to work for that company. So if they ask you that type of question, you might want to say that as a material science major, you combine both. You really have an understanding of mechanical engineering, you have an understanding of chemical engineering, but I like the first road. Stay away from that company.
I think,
Keep going.
One thing that I see students do when they go to the career fair is they'll say things like, well, I've taken this class, I've taken that class, and I think that's sort of missed opportunity. I mean, I had the pleasure of working with Arlen to do posters for the department. I had the pleasure of doing a research option with Professor Notice. And what I realized only recently, like within the last year or so, is that what I was developing was a portfolio of activities that I could bring to the career fair and say, I can do these things. And so, yeah, I agree with Boris wholeheartedly. If they don't know what a material scientist is, you're not going to educate that person at that moment. But if you go there with a portfolio, here are the skills that I possess, and you use your time at Lehigh to develop that skill set and portfolio, then you have ammunition to go to these people and say, this is what I can do. Surely you need someone like this. So that may be one sort of measure that you could take in advance of going to a career fair. Not just you, but I mean any undergraduate. Right?
That's great. Dr. Notice?
Yeah, along the same line. Response could be, I went to school not to get a pedigree, but to get a broad education, and I'd like to apply my broad education to your situation.
Oh, that's fantastic right there. Dr. Herzog.
When I was chairman, I used to give lectures to the entering freshmen, orientation lectures, when they came in to find out what field they wanted to major in. I used to say, now let's talk about civil engineering. That's everything that's big. And then mechanical engineering is everything that moves. And material science is everything that is.
See? He told you. He told me. Matter. Stars matter. Yes. Yes. Well, here's another question for you. How would you define success? Like if you were mentoring, and that's another follow-up question, mentoring. Success. What is success to you? Like, what does it look like? I mean, how do you know you're there? Like, what is it? Success. How do you define it, and what is it to you? We'll start with Charles, because you look happy. Go, Charles. Tell us. Success.
That's a really difficult question. I think that for me it's certainly varied with time. Right now at work, it's being able to look at my team, where they are now, where they were 6 months or a year ago, take those individual success stories, watching people develop, their skills develop, their ability to solve problems. But that's certainly a dynamic thing. I would have had a much more individualistic approach to that 10, 15 years ago.
Okay, anyone else want to define success?
I think you have to ask yourself some questions before you define success. Is what do you want in life? And sometimes that's the harder question to answer. So, sometimes you just have to start making your own way before you can find that out for yourself. I think that materials engineering is so broad and it's so, basic that it can be a launching point into so many different careers. And I remember looking back into some of the statistics around, where does a graduate from materials engineering go? And, it could be a lawyer, it could be, IP attorney, it could be so many different places that, if you have an idea of where you want to be, that gives you the metrics by which you can say, okay, is it just to be happy, or do I want to make a lot of money? Do I want to be like renowned researcher? You got to start there.
Okay. Yeah, I like to define success pretty simple. I don't even know if the dictionary would define it like this, but success to me is when you find prosperity in every area of your life and in all of your relationships. In every area of your life and all of your relationships. That is what I usually look for in terms of mobility and movement towards something like success. More importantly, significant. And that's what I've experienced here at Lehigh. That's just me. Anyone else?
Yeah, I mean, I think I have two thoughts, right? The first is, if I wake up in the morning and I'm happy to get dressed, get my car, go to work, that's a success, right? Because it means that I'm not dreading the activity, right? And that's like my first signal that things aren't quite right is that if I have some fear or dread for getting up and going off to do the thing that I wanted to do, whatever it is. So I'd say success is, I'm out the door, I'm ready to go. No issue there. But I think, moving towards a goal, I think one thing that can affect people at different points in their career, and it comes from, Patrick, you mentioned who do you want to be. That can lead to an existential crisis for students. As an undergraduate, I ask undergraduates that question, and I've had a myriad of responses, like some tears, some silence. Some people say they've never been asked that question before. So I think the idea of moving towards something is good, but it can be dangerous if you're not ready for the existential crisis. And I think we're all going to have it at some point. So success is, I'm happy, I want to get up, and not even happy, but I want to get up and go somewhere. But I think you have to be mentally prepared for those little crises that are going to occur through your career. And it doesn't mean you're a failure. It just means that things are, shifting for you. You have to redefine those metrics. Who do I want to be? So I think somehow that all has to fit together for people.
I recently asked my chiropractor, I'm like, if you had $10 million today, it was not just given to you, but you earned it, what would you do? And I just blew his mind. He's like, he doesn't know.
He stopped rubbing your back and stuff?
Well, he wasn't rubbing it.
Oh, okay. Or popping it, whatever they do.
Yeah.
But, matter of fact, go ahead.
Anyway, he had to think about it for a month, and he hadn't figured it out. But he wants to help people. But if you put that question to yourself, if you had to not worry about money, would you be doing what you're doing? Are you happy doing it? So, that's another place you can start.
Real quick, I have a question about the relationships between our faculty and when we were students. All of them were super fantastic, no doubt, but we all had advisors, right? And sometimes that went beyond the classroom. It was just more about mentoring, whether it was your advisor or not. Go ahead, and I'm gonna embarrass somebody up in here. Look, who was probably the most influential person, if you could say, in your life here as a student that caused you to be some kind of force in your career? I know who that was for me. Go ahead for you.
Well, it's very hard for me to name one.
It's hard. It's hard, everybody, because we love them all. But somebody said something to you that just made you Superman, Boris. So what happened?
I don't know about Superman, but I really, look, I think there's probably 3 or 4 people at the faculty who are very influential. One was certainly my advisor, Arnie Mutter.
Yes.
Mike Notice, Joe Goldstein, Arlen. And they taught me, like I said, they taught me more about life than they taught me about metallurgy, what it means to be a person coming to a country like that, and how to live, and how to have a lot of things. So, like I said, I think those were the most influential people here. I wouldn't be where I am today without them, and I'm very, very, very grateful for that. So I'm not answering your questions directly.
No, you answered it really nicely. I like how you grouped everybody. I like to change to a group, so it'd be better than one person. What about me? Anyone else want to? For me, it was Dr. Stout and Dr. Gross. Give my 2 illustrious advisors, if you will, a round of applause. They have now. They made a metallurgist out of me. It was amazing. When I came to the college, they knew my name, Anthony Bernard Magee. But when I walked into the office, they was like, whoa. Because Anthony Bernard Magee sounded like a white dude, right? White guy. And it was me. It was me. And they kind of said, okay, come in, Mr. Tony Magee, come in and sit down. And Dr. Gross gave me just an impromptu oral exam. I failed because I didn't know what he was talking about. Because I was an industrial engineer, I was never a materials scientist. I came here to couple that degree with materials and everything. But we became friends immediately. And what I like to say is that with all of my professors and Dr. Gross and Stout, who were my advisors, I want to thank you all because the last 20 years I've walked around somewhat as a person that people looked up to because they learned that I was your first African American to graduate from this department in material science and engineering graduate studies. So everywhere I went, people were like, "Wow, you went to Lehigh and you were first." Yes, I was that dude. Yeah, taking pictures. I want to thank you, Dr. Notice, because my very first exam I had was in Dr. Notice's class. I don't know if you remember that, but everything that I did on the exam I got right, but half of it I couldn't finish. So I failed it. I failed the exam. And I failed it atrociously because I froze. You ever been scared? Anybody? Where you just was scared. And I had self-doubt, why am I here? Dude, look around, man. That way, this way, up. Look, why are you here? And when you're a young person and you lack a little self-esteem about your reason for being here, Dr. Notice he allowed me to retake my exam. He gave me a whole different exam, but he said, here, take it in my office and relax. You can do this. Tony Magee, you belong here. And because you and Dr. Katie Barmack both gave me that lecture, I went on and graduated with my honor, at least. And went on to do some great things, but that to me is what I'm talking about in terms of the love, the Lehigh love that you get, not just in terms of, phase transformations and, thermodynamics, but more so, that mentoring. What about you, Lauren? Who was your
I don't have one person.
No, who?
But I have a moment.
I got an A on the exam though. I got an A on the second exam. I just need somebody recording this. I got an A on the second exam. All right, go ahead, Lauren.
You done?
Yes, go ahead.
Sorry. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to be an engineer when I came here as an undergrad, but I really didn't know what. I think at some point I was a bioengineer, a chemical engineer, and undecided after that. So I remember taking Mat 10 by accident my sophomore year because I thought for Mat 33 you had to take the lab. I thought it was a package deal. I didn't realize it was only for majors. So I remember at the end of the semester, I really liked it. I stayed with Arlen forever and started asking lots of questions. And then at some point, it came to Arlen's attention. I think Jamie had asked me whether or not I was actually going to declare my major. And Arlen was just like, well, what are you waiting for? And then the rest is all history. I don't think I left the department for 7.5 years after that. So.
Arlen, you a force, brother. I'm telling you, all the nights in the lab you stayed with us, I appreciate it, man. I wasn't trying to hear from Dr. Gross. Anyway, Charles, what do you think?
Yeah, so many defining moments here, but I remember the first paper I wrote, and I labored over this thing for weeks. And I gave it to Mike, and I got it back a couple of days later, and I was devastated. There was more red ink on the paper than black. And I went away and made the corrections, and it went backwards and forwards. And I remember seeing it in publication 6 months or a year later, and recognizing immediately that the finished product was just so much better than my first draft. And that was really instrumental in the way I write. Right now, I'll just throw the ideas down on paper, throw it out to 5 people, and the power of teamwork. You get so much further, so much faster if you bring other people in. So that was one of those defining moments.
Charles, can you go ahead and elaborate on the importance of teamship, like working together in a strong team, because it takes a team to stream that dream. So could you comment on the teamship you were just talking about?
Yeah, teamwork. There's a Rudyard Kipling poem I like, and maybe you guys know this. It's I think called The 6 Blind Men of Hindustan. And it's a story about 6 blind men that go see an elephant. And they bump into different bits of it, and on the way back they have an argument because one bumps into the leg and he thinks it's a tree, and somebody bumps up onto the belly and thinks it's a ceiling. And at the end of the poem, it's basically saying that all of them were right and yet all of them were wrong. But together, they describe the elephant perfectly. And for me, it's as simple as that. We all have different skill sets, we all have different attributes and strengths, and we all have huge weaknesses. And if we can combine different people that complement us, we move a lot further, a lot faster, a lot more easily. It's really that simple.
Excellent. Yes.
I think for me there was a number of defining moments, but one of the characteristics of the people at Lehigh that I worked with and the department in general, and the school in general, is that there's a sense of kind of a acceptance and support that happened for me through the integrated product development program, through research in the department, where I was able to accomplish things and also pursue ideas of my own. We looked at pursuing the business into nanotech and got grants and various financing and applied for various different projects, and that happened while I was a graduate student and even afterwards. Mm-hmm. And the ability of the department to accept that and allow me to work with the chemical engineering department and the materials department and just kind of do a scattershot approach to find where that niche ended up being was pretty awesome. And it's an opportunity for you undergraduate students and graduate students to follow what your passion is, because if you're following it and you're passionate about it, your chances of being successful are really good.
Yes. I agree with that passion. Let's take it to the audience really quickly. We're talking about success, career success. Anyone? Question for the panel? Yes, ma'am.
I'm Allison.
Hi, Allison.
We were talking about success. You mentioned like relationships, and then also like what you do like your career. So, what do you guys do like when those things don't necessarily align?
What do you do when those things don't align? What are the two things?
Can you just
Relationships and your work. When they don't align, what do you do?
Okay. So I just want to make sure I answer the question you're asking. Are you saying that like my colleagues or whatever and my job or my family and my job, what?
Yeah, there's like any kind of financial problem when you kind of
Oh, right. Yeah, so I think at some point we all come to the realization that, well, I'll speak for myself, that my family has to come first, and that there was a period of time between my graduating with my PhD and getting tenure at RPI where there was this contract that my wife and I made where, you can do what you need to do to get tenure, but then after that, it's got to rebalance. And so, that's a very personal, specific example, but I think it illustrates a point, which is that the people who you surround yourself with, there's like an implicit trust and balance. And I think you have to sort of reevaluate that constantly and make sure that you're not being too self-centered and taking advantage of folks, because then, that could have ended very badly if I didn't come back and put my family first.
Yeah,
Right. So, as I said, that's a very personal example, but I think it goes even with your colleagues. And I know Anthony DiGiovanni and I were talking about some projects together, and I think our Lehigh relationship and even just our personal relationship, affects how this balance of like how we do work and how we relate to one another. So I think it's hard to separate the relationships and the implicit contracts from the things that we're doing in your job, and you just have to be very mindful of how you treat people.
So I'm going to argue that the fact that you find this difficult is a good thing. These conflicts are good, and the reason they're good is that this is telling me that you're thinking about things and trying to balance. The moment people cease to have an issue with these things, they've got a problem, because either work's winning all the time or family's winning all the time. So it's great. It's good that you have a conflict. That's not a bad thing. That just tells me that you're conscious of both sides and are trying to balance it. It's not easy, but the biggest part for me is being aware that there should be some degree of conflict. I mean, for me, I don't know how I can balance watching the, kindergartner's Christmas show as opposed to getting a project finished by lunchtime. Those two worlds are so far apart, you can't possibly do that. So issues and things like that with people on work balance there should always be some, in my opinion, degree of conflict there within yourself, because you are trying to balance this sort of dynamic situation.
Excellent. Did that help? Excellent. Yes?
I have a question.
Sure.
So Adam Scotch, and I was graduated in 96 and 2003. I'm struck by the panel because they all have advanced degrees in material science. Did you not learn enough as an undergrad?
Wow.
Or did you just want to learn more? So the question is that. So what is it that drove you to become and go to graduate school versus going into the workforce?
Well, BS, MS, PhD.
Yeah.
BS, basic stuff, more the same, power R&D. Well, you understand? Well, the answer is yes and no. There's enough there, undergraduate, for you to perform, no doubt. But when you talk about expertise, graduate school is where it is, because it's not just in the classroom. It's many nights over at Atlas, cutting steel and heat treatment and make sure it's done before stop get there. That's not over with a lab. That's wherever you are studying. So that's the part that the undergraduates can appreciate from graduate school. That's my opinion. Anyway.
I think it's a really good question, and I think it's convoluted. Literally convoluted, not just confusing. We have the problem of the academic institutions as a whole. I think this degree inflation problem is a real problem. And then I think the size of the corporation that you're working for folds into this as well. I think, Patrick, you said yourself there was no one else to do the financial management, and so you had to do it. And I know, my wife, for example, on Wednesdays, her whole company swept the floor because there was no one that they hired to do it. So I think, what you have to balance as an undergraduate or graduate is, where am I going to be comfortable working, what size corporation, and then what kind of ticket do I need to play that game? So for teaching, I felt I needed to have my PhD, I worked at GE for a little bit, and so going to GE with a bachelor's degree is a much different job than going to GE with a PhD, and in fact, when you go to GE with a master's degree, they don't really know what to do with you. But that leads to problems. So I think what you have to balance, and this is for undergraduates and graduates are considering, is where do I want to go and work, or what would I like, and then what's the minimum ticket I need to get into that. And I think people aren't hiring technicians who don't have bachelor's degrees. It's a much different world than 20, 30 years ago. Some of the long life technicians where my wife works do just have like GED or high school education, and that's just, there's a clash of two different cultures. So,
well, that's a really good point, Daniel. I wouldn't be able to, I've been teaching at Cal State Northridge since I've been back home in Los Angeles, and I wouldn't have been able to help the university had I not received a master's degree in metallurgy. So that's a good point. That's another reason why. There are all kinds of tangible and intangible benefits for graduate education, but it doesn't mean you have to. We just want you to. Yeah. Anyone else? Okay. I have a quick question.
Yeah, Tony,
yes, please.
One person who raised her hand.
Yes, I did. Yes.
Question about getting an advanced degree. Did you find that made it easier for you to get a job, or like what kind of benefits that give you in the workforce?
Yeah, that's a conundrum right there because
I don't think, again, there's a simple answer to that. It opens doors, but it closes doors at the same time.
Yeah.
So I think, as Daniel was alluding to, if you've got a sense of what kind of things you want to do, that will help answer that. But I'd suggest you don't think of it as a panacea. If you get it, all these things will be available to you. You're going to close as many doors as you will open. They're just different.
Yeah. Sometimes you can also scare people. Like you can be too smart to work for a team because you got somebody crazy in the team, low, matter of fact, that don't want somebody as strong as you around. But there are too many, meaning enough that do. So don't you worry about that.
One thing that I've tried to do is when I make a decision, is I try not to look back and say what if, sort of disallow the what if game in my own head. So, one day you decide you want to go on and get a PhD, just think about it from that point forward. And, don't let the doubt of the decision-making process sort of creep back in. And, to Charlie's point, it's going to open and close doors, but in your own mind, you'll know, I made that decision and I'm done with thinking about what if.
Yeah, graduate education, I just did it. I was told to do it. I didn't even want to do it. They just said, do it. And then once I finished here, they said, go to law school. And I said, I don't know about all that. So I went to business school and did it again. You know what I mean? And from there, it just built. But like Daniel was saying, don't second guess yourself. Kind of just see how, you can do, what you can do to improve yourself and be happy with it. Because you can make your way probably without all that stuff, but it'd be easier if you had a solid education, no matter what.
So I came straight through from high school to undergraduate to graduate. A more intelligent way to do it, I think, now would be to get a bachelor's degree, join the workforce, see if you like it at that level. A lot of major companies will reimburse you for graduate school, and I think you'll be better that way. So you can go back after a couple of years in the workforce, get a master's, perhaps part-time. If you like the PhD level people, you could go back full-time for graduate school. I think that is perhaps, in my opinion, a more intelligent way to do it than going straight the way through from high school.
That's excellent advice.
Tony, can you comment here?
Yeah, I'm looking for it. Where the comment? Yes, Dr. Pence.
Do not lose your sense of humor. Remember, there was a time when Lehigh required everybody to take a swimming test. You remember that?
Yeah.
Now, most people forgot it. So I sent out to our students, graduate students, that asked them if they'd have passed their swimming test. And of course, some said they hadn't. So I said, well, we're going to arrange it for you to do it now before you get in trouble. And I said, we've got a river here in Pennsylvania. And I said, bring a swimming suit, and we would meet you on the other side. Eating donuts. And some students actually thought that was true. And I sent the same thing out to the faculty. And I said, Lehigh was losing money. We had to save money on travel. And the first choice for travel was hitchhiking. We would give them a vest, a Western vest if they had to go at night, or where they wanted to go, Chicago, whatever it was. And they didn't need to stay in a hotel. They could take a sleeping bag, they could go out into someplace else, you know, maybe where they had a nice river or something there. And you know, some people actually thought that was true. And that went around because it was so crazy, you know, you didn't stay at a hotel, you stayed with your family. Oh boy, and you could also have somebody else stay with somebody else's family. But please not give them a family that was a nasty family because to make it bad for your friends. So I had that whole thing written up, sent it out. And of course, most people didn't get it, but some did. Some mostly got it, some did. That went around to three of the different colleges. The day that was April Fool's Day, it was on Thursday, and I got a call from a professor, dean from another school, president actually of another school. Can I use that in my university? And I said yes. And later on, I went to a meeting somewhere in the South. And I guess I gave a presentation. Somebody said, were you the guy that wrote that crazy thing about travel? And I said, I am the one. It went all over because it was so crazy. You know, you gotta laugh. Sometimes you gotta laugh at yourself. And so I think they shouldn't forget that.
Big round of applause for Dr. Trump. Your story surprised me because I know you personally and you helped raise me up in here, but I'm really glad you told that story today than before I got here. Because I would have believed you. You know, trying to get your comedy on and everything. It would have really scared me because see, I could swim, but only in a little pool. I can't be doing that ocean thing and coming from Los Angeles. Y'all got like trees and deer and stuff, and I'll be looking around, you know.
You never forgot to laugh.
Well, thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Dr. Pence won't leave. This is great.
So I have to add then the story that Dr. Pence would tell us in his alloy steels class, which we weren't sure whether it was true or not, but he would regularly tell the students at that time that he named his children Perlite, Bainite, and Martensite. We thought he was just a little strange enough. And then we met his wife and we realized, nah, she probably wouldn't have allowed that.
Everyone's laughing. That's good. That's so good. Yes, Dr. Thomas.
Al Pence reminds me of one of his stories that I often quote, and it's served me well at this meeting. He said, I'll never forget old, what's his name? That's served me well in this last evening and this morning. It's wonderful to see all of you. I have to search your name tag to find out who you are.
Oh, man. Dr. Thomas, man. Dr. Hertzberg. Mr. Fracture Mechanics.
About 30 years ago, I was doing a consulting job in New Orleans with my thesis advisor and friend. This is after I had started teaching. And a week later, I get a paper bag in my office, and there was no return address. And in this paper bag was a broken toilet seat. And I didn't know who it came from. And I gathered up all my graduate students, I think you were one of them, co-author, and I decided to write a paper on a failure analysis of the toilet seat. And I said, you guys do the laboratory stuff, and I'll write the paper. And the paper is entitled A Laboratory Analysis of a Lavatory Failure. And it's about a toilet seat. And it's filled with all kinds of really good stuff, electron microscopy, and stress analysis, and all that kind of stuff. I found out that it really came from Paul. He had broken the toilet seat. And several years later, there was a professor from the University of Texas named Harris Marcus, who's an expert in stress corrosion. And he came up to me at a conference and he said, your paper, you are going to be so famous for that paper. I said, what about my book? He said, the hell with the book. That paper is just incredible. I give it as a final exam, but I don't say what it is. I just describe the material and its configuration, but I don't say what it is. He said, that is going to go down as your most significant accomplishment. I said, well,
oh, wow.
10 minutes.
Excellent. We're doing great. Yeah, that was, hold on. That was funny. Okay, anyone else? Real quick? Yes, sir.
John Pierce, class of 77.
Hey!
I guess listening to some of the students' questions, I just graduated here with a bachelor's and went to work. The thing that's really unique about materials, metallurgy at the time is we're so much involved in process, and you really are the only person in the place that knows materials from birth to grave. You find that, as I said earlier, other colleagues come to you because you have the understanding of the overall system. You know, they all work on little tiny things. They don't understand necessarily what they're doing, how it affects the overall. So even just as a bachelor, you can find great success.
I want to clap for you just because you say you recently got your degree?
No.
Oh, sorry. Oh, I misheard. Yeah. Not see, but yeah, okay. I got it. But I'll clap for you anyway. Clap for this man right here. Yes, ma'am, please.
I like the camaraderie we have, some faculty members.
Oh, they cool. See, you go there how you get cool faculty. There's no pretension. Everybody's good here. Yes, go ahead.
But I'll ask the panel, do you have any Lehigh colleagues or have you used Lehigh connections to help in your work?
I got my job because of a conference that I went to, but that would be the only connection. Only I'll say that for the most part, every little person you have here, like an advisor, you have people who help you in your lab, and you have a lot of the same camaraderie that I have a lot of that at work now that I had at Lehigh, and I think that was surprising to me, but I find, like Arbelos was saying, you have to laugh, it has to be fun, you're at work more than you do anything else, so above all else, you sort of have to all get along, and if someone has to go home because their kids have soccer practice, you stay late one day, and they do the same for you, and I think, I didn't go there knowing people or having very many connections, but regardless of whether or not I stay or whether one of Professor Pearson's students end up coming up there, I think you get that camaraderie regardless. So I think that's where I stand.
That's a wonderful question. Can I piggyback with you? I want you to answer this. I want to give a shout out to the women in engineering. Can we give some love? Just clap for women. I think it's an important topic. I really do because you're super smart, and I don't think we really take advantage of that in terms of teamship and education and whatnot, but you guys are blazing mad trails now. I would like to ask you, or any woman in the audience, what does it mean to be like a shero, you're a shero, you're an engineer, woman engineer, and that alone, just really inspires men and women actually. So how's it been in your career, and what would you say?
I've never met my mother, but a lot of people here have. She's a very loud, short little Italian lady, and she's not an engineer. She works in a hospital, but I don't know that I've really noticed a whole lot of the fact that I'm a woman coming up when it comes to engineering. There aren't very many of us. I know that's statistically just the way it is, but I think engineers in general tend to be their own animal. we tend to stay late in the lab, obsessed over getting every little picture perfect with no scratch, with micron bar, obsessed with getting everything just so, and I think that that's more or less what I've noticed is that there aren't, I mean, even here, there were, I think, 4 in my graduating class, and at work, there are 2 in a fab of somewhere around 200. So there aren't many, but I'll say, I know it might seem like you're a little lonely and the numbers are getting better, but in general, I think when you're, especially in engineering, when you're an engineer, it's kind of obvious, so I think that tends to take precedence more than anything else. Right. But I have noticed that like my mentor is a woman, she's one of the first, I think, physics PhDs from Brown, and there's a little bit of a camaraderie there, so that's always very nice, but in general, I think being in engineering, that tends to take precedence over really much of anything else.
Correct. I was talking about in terms of what we see.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I just think if we have more, it would change the game. Yes. Anyone else? Yes.
Yeah, I had a quick last question. I'd like to ask the panel if there's anything rather at Lehigh that they wish they had done but they didn't, or vice versa, that they did do and then they wish they hadn't.
You know, I wish I'd taken a few more math classes. I really do. And I think, you know, I've said to Rick and to John and Jeff yesterday, and even today when I saw them, that I think that's a real special thing that the department's cultivating. You know, this emphasis on applied mathematics and materials. And so, you know, I'm sort of sorry that I didn't appreciate the opportunities that I had, given the tuition I was paying, to take a few more classes here and there. And I think that would have benefited me. And, you know, the things that I wish I hadn't done, you know, I think I squandered a lot of time. And only now do I realize that the currency of my life is time, not stuff or what I've done. And so I think at this point, you know, maybe for the undergraduates and the graduates, is you have a gem here, and spend more time working with it, in it, and with the people around you. I think that's probably the best thing I could offer as advice.
That's pretty good. To wrap up, if we could just go real quickly, just a last word. Give us a last word on the students, undergrad, graduate, or anyone that could benefit. Give us a last word from your day today. Boris.
I think you're in great school, and I think you'll have great career opportunities, and use this event as a great networking event to enhance your careers. I think you have a lot of great people here to help, that want to help.
I think about, you know, the last time I had to make a decision where it wasn't kind of like laid out in front of me, and so in a way I kind of envy, like, you know, you graduates with, you know, no plan, just to go out into the world and do anything, and I would encourage you, don't just do something by default. Don't just go to grad school or whatever just because, okay, that's the next thing, but like find and wait, it'll take time, and find something that you're passionate about, and then put your heart into it.
Charles.
I think go above and beyond. Summer jobs, internships, go above and beyond what your peers are doing. Broaden your network. Don't just talk to people in the material science department. Go hang out with chemists, chemical engineers, physicists. Appreciate what you do in a broader context, and that will serve you well.
Yes.
I'm still hung up on the whole graduating after, or getting a job after undergrad, or going to advanced degrees, or any of that. And I think it's whatever you want to make it. I think whatever is meant to happen will. And when opportunities present itself, like I did research in my junior and senior year, so I stayed on, and I worked for Professor Pearson, who worked with mechanical engineers and chemical engineers and chemists, and that opportunity was laid out. But I met just as many people who took a year off and went back, and it was because they wanted to move to a different part of the country, they wanted to be more near family, and I think whatever path you choose, you can always kind of cater it to whatever's going to make you happy. Just don't feel like you have to do anything.
That's wonderful. Last thing I want to say is, being a person who was granted the opportunity to be a Lehigh grad, sometimes I still feel like a Lehigh engineer versus a Mountain Hawk, but it's all good. I'll embrace it all. But I just appreciated it, and I want to let you know that all of you, because of your presence here, going through your particular situation, that you have the power to touch lives as a Lehigh grad, to mold futures, to constantly grow and learn, to challenge yourselves each day and every day, to always make a difference. Within your powerful hearts and your beautiful minds lies the spirit of greatness, and within all of you lies magic. Lies magic. So it's all the same to you. Let's give our great panelists here. I wanted to offer something to all the students primarily. I didn't bring one for everybody, but I brought a case of books. All of you, I will autograph you this book as a gift in honor of our 125th birthday anniversary from me to you. So just see us in the reception, and I'll be happy to sign you. Everybody actually will come first served, get one in case.